Did you see Candace Owens' recent Nazi sympathetic tweets? Why? Why is she doing this? What audience is she building? Who is she winning over with this? What is the audience she's trying to build? What is the message she's trying to put out there with these recent messages? We could go look at them if you want, but it's bizarre. It's confusing why she would be focusing so much on. She seems to be on a thing right now where, let's see if we can look up Candace. She seems to be on a thing right now of talking about all the atrocities done to the Germans during World War II. She's talking a lot about it, and I'm not against the idea of thinking about it or, you know, discussing it, but I will say that outside of like the historical conversation, getting, let's say, booted from the Daily Wire and then immediately going on a rant about how the Germans were mistreated during the Second World War after getting fired for the reason she was fired by, it makes me feels a little strange, doesn't it? My gears in my head start turning even if I try to stop them. I try to jam it up with a stick or something, it's just gonna break the stick, it's gonna keep going. It makes me thinking, man, what a time for her to specifically right now, after being fired from the Daily Wire, for her to be going out and discovering that the Germans in the Second World War were mistreated so horribly. Not too long after she was liking tweets about Jews drinking Christian blood and all. Now, of course, I don't want to read too much into a like tweet, but I start seeing a pattern and I'm like, what is going on here? What is she doing this for? Who is she trying to win over in the long term? What is it's just a complete disregard of it? I have no clue. So let's look at some of these posts. When did they start? I think they started very recently. Oh yeah, and she also said that by continuing to send weapons to Ukraine, we are funding the ethnic cleansing of Ukraine. And Vivek Ramaswamy is down in like the replies, like bumping it up. Not, oh wait, no, that's a parody account. What? Why? Okay. I'm sorry, let me just, why would you make a parody account and then make serious political arguments? Funding Ukraine over addressing the pressing needs of the America's shameful display of misplaced priority. You're a parody account. Wait, okay. Does he just want to role play as Vivek Ramaswamy? Is that the goal here? To just like role play as Vivek? Because if the goal is to be a parody account, I would imagine he'd be in the replies like as Vivek Ramaswamy saying like, golly gee, this is something I need to write in my Be Like Trump notebook. Or just, I can't think of any jokes. Ramaswamy's not a really funny guy, but there would be like a joke to it. But no, this just looks like he wants to role play being Vivek Ramaswamy. It's weird. It's weird. Isn't that weird? I'm not weird for thinking that's weird, right? Like if I had like a parody Biden account, I wouldn't use it to just be like, you know, the child tax credit was a big victory for cutting down childhood poverty and No, the parody would be, what? I'm old. It'd be something like that, right? And that would be a I'm sorry. Just parody account should not mean that you're just it should mean a parody, that you're doing a parody, an impersonation to be like, not that you're just role-playing as them. It's like some Twitter D&D. Anyway, yeah, she believes that giving weapons to a country to defend itself because it engages in conscription is ethnic cleansing, which, if that's true, then to be clear, we ethnically cleansed ourselves during World War I, we ethnically cleansed ourselves during the Civil War, we ethnically cleansed ourselves during World War II and I, we ethnically cleansed ourselves during Korea, because I do believe we had some conscription during Korea. We ethnically cleansed ourselves during Vietnam. Like, what is the ethnicity that Ukraine is cleansing? There is no ethnicity that Ukraine is cleansing. So she just means that, oh, conscription and casualties equals ethnic cleansing. Well, then under this argument, to be clear, if we were invaded by China, we would just need to hope that the patriotism of the American people would create so much patriotism and so much support for the war, we would never engage in conscription. And if we did, that'd be the ethnic cleansing of the United States. It's a ridiculous standard. She's just, I mean, I don't think she really cares much about the term ethnic cleansing and its seriousness and being used. Well, let's look at some other stuff. Where's the stuff about World War II? Oh, retweeting David Sachs, because of course. Here we go. Did you know that when Dresden was incinerated back in 1945, it was Ash Wednesday? Christians were burned alive on Ash Wednesday. Many of them were refugees from Stalin's Christian Holocaust. Christians were no longer to be told that we aren't allowed to know or discuss our history. Dresden was bombed over the course of several days, February 13th to 15th, 1945, as part of the ongoing Allied campaign against Nazi Germany. Ash Wednesday was specifically February 14th. This tweet, along with others, basically imply Allies specifically targeted Christians for bombing. So she does kind of set it up here as if, number one, we did it on Ash Wednesday to then destroy Christian refugees from Stalin's. This had nothing to do with Christianity. World War II had nothing to do with Christianity. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. It was Christians fighting Christians. Like, it would be as silly as saying that, oh, World War II was about, you know, defending the white race or something. No, it makes no sense, because there was the Nazi Germans invaded a bunch of other countries full of a bunch of white people and then killed them. You know, even like the Nazis who like paint Hitler as a protector of white people. He killed more white people than probably any of the most anti-white racist person in the world could dream of. Both white Germans, and he killed the Germans en masse through their membership of military organizations that were of the Aryan stock. He like put up as like the penultimate amazing white guy. Like, oh my God, these are the bee's knees of white people. And he put them into the war machine and grinded them up. But it had nothing to do with anybody being Christian. They were all Christian, except for the ones that were being brought over from India to fight, or people from different colonies, or the atheists in the Red Army. But the majority of the people who fought were Christian. There were Jews as well, but most were Christian. So that would the argument would have to be that Christian Delano Roosevelt and Christian Churchill, leading primarily Christian nations, decided to target the Germans on Ash Wednesday, a Catholic holiday, mind you, in order to, by the way, wait, give me a second here. I'm trying to look at like the Christian demographics of Germany and specifically of Dresden, because I don't even know if the majority of people in Dresden were Catholic. You know what? I don't even need to get that deep into it. It wasn't targeted specifically on Ash Wednesday. It was Christian on Christian violence. It had nothing to do with Christianity. And the refugees from Stalin's Holocaust were going in like any direction that they could, including into Germany, but also that didn't include the rest of the people being killed by the Nazi Holocaust. So where is the Christian specific element here? There's no Christian specific element. I don't understand what she means when she says Christians will no longer be told they weren't allowed to discuss our history. What would be the history here? That Germany was getting bombed, and it also happened to get bombed on religious holidays, that they continued the bombing during the religious holidays. Hey, want to know something special? The Germans didn't give peace treaties with the Soviets on Red Army holidays. They didn't give peace treaties with the Allies during special holidays, religious holidays. In fact, Hitler, as an individual, was against the World War I truce. Do you guys remember during the World War I truce? It's like this beautiful moment, World War I Christmas truce, where during Christmas, none of the troops wanted to fight. They didn't see the point in the violence, so they all got together and they all played ball and had a good time. Here's a painted recreation. Yeah, Hitler thought this was stupid. He thought this was stupid. He was like, this is collaboration with the enemy. This is, you cannot philander and hang out with the people you need to kill. We need to shut this down. He didn't put pauses on the war for religious holidays. He didn't do any of that. So if Hitler hates the idea of giving pauses for holidays, why would the Allies go out of their way for Hitler to give pauses for Christian holidays that he didn't respect for anyone else? After he engaged in some of the most brutal warfare, if not the most brutal warfare man had ever known and has ever known since. And we're supposed to tap out for Ash Wednesday? It doesn't make any sense. Now, if you want to go against the idea of bombing cities, period, just put it aside. Like, I don't care about their industrial capacity to produce weapons. I don't care about how German cities were laid out when it comes to military capacity next to civilian. None of that matters. Put all of that aside. Just don't bomb civilian cities or cities with civilians in it ever. You can say that. Good luck planning military operations, but you can say that. But that's not even what she's concentrating on. She's concentrating on the idea that it's Christian, that it was a Christian, that how dare the Allies do this on a Christian holiday when Hitler would never do it for us. He specifically hated this sort of thing. It wasn't specifically on Ash Wednesday, and the countries doing the bombing were predominantly Christian. Actually, no, the countries doing the bombing of Dresden was Christian. It was the British and the Americans. And the men who not only led said countries were Christian, but the men who also organized the bombings were Christian. When you want to talk about the generals. I'm just glad you have the moral clarity to admit what happened in Dresden was a sinister war crime. I would debate any person on the absurd notion that dropping nukes month after German surrender on civilian cities in a country that had been on defensive retreat for 2 years was somehow necessary to win the war. I'm not clear on your point about Israel, as it had nothing to do with the discussion at hand, which is a public consensus due to Turkey's conversation with Joe Rogan. I mean, was it necessary to win the war? No. Was it an easier way of winning the war? Yeah. Was it still, I mean, this is the thing. If you want to talk about the use of nuclear weapons in Japan, you also inevitably have to talk about Curtis LeMay's horrific firebombing campaign of Japan, of just going from biggest city to biggest city and just demolishing them one by one, crafting bombs specifically designed to burn down, and he tested them in the Nevada desert, Japanese wooden homes. But let's be clear, if this was a question about like horrible brutalities done to the Germans, it must always be done and said in the same sentence as the Germans would 100% do the same thing, and the purpose of much of it would be the entire annihilation of the population there. Like the Lebensraum, it was necessary for the Lebensraum program to kill tons of people. They had death squads to do it. Like whether or not you bomb a bunch of people, then the violence stops and you end the violence. There's a big difference between the bombing goes, okay, the resistance stops, and so then you load everyone on the trains and kill them. Or you send out the death squads to execute family after family after family, and the people who survive get put in labor groups that will then work to death for the rest of the war. Like, there is a big difference here. So when we talk about mistreatment of the Germans, every single mistreatment you can point to, the Germans either did do it to someone else, or in the position they would do the same thing, if not worse. Do you think if the Germans had bombers within range of Washington, D.C., that they would have distinguished between civilian and military targets? For example, when the Germans were fighting the British, they engaged in terror bombings of Britain using rockets. When they were doing the Battle of Britain, and bombing Great Britain, after one bombing raid that hit Berlin, the Germans decided to deviate from their main military targets and start bombing civilian infrastructure, dropping bombs, cluster bombs, all sort of stuff, in order to try to terrorize the civilian population. That's what the Battle of Britain was. So if you were against it in principle, that's fine. But when we talk about the Germans, like this was a horrible thing done to Christians, it was a situation of, what goes, I mean, I don't mean to like say this was a good thing that happened. It's a situation of what goes around comes around. You go around and slaughter everybody else's civilians, then it's not going to be that surprising that when the other countries come back and start beating your ass, that they're not going to take into heavy consideration, or into much, because there was consideration, just it wasn't the number one priority of when we bomb this factory, let's make sure actually we don't do it, we just disable it on the ground because some civilian homes are near it. No, General Westmoreland and General Patton and all these other people, they did not give a fuck. But that's also how war was fought then. Hopefully we have reformed the ways that we've fought war since the Second World War, the most brutal war in man's history. We are now at the phase where the crazy people are trying to convince the sane people that they are the crazy ones. What do you mean you don't think innocent children should be firebombed to death? So you're not going to wear a mask and you plan to just go see your grandma for Christmas? This is the same psychos. Well, I mean, I would be interested in hearing what Candace Owens' strategy was to win the Second World War. I mean, if she even thinks we should have fought the Second World War, which, I mean, the way she's talking, I am starting to question it. I don't know if the Daily Wire has knocked the sense out of her head that much. But, I mean, I agree that you shouldn't firebomb innocent children to death, but that's not where she started the conversation. The conversation was, we killed all those Christians, and then we bombed Christian refugees. The Christians need to know their history. It's being talked about as if this was like Christian on Christian. But I mean, you could have equally said, like, we bombed left-handed people, and then there were left-handed refugees. Left-handed people need to know their history. None of this had to do with being Christian. If it would, for example, if Germany was like, what, like Buddhist, would the situation change? Would it be a different discussion? Also, she's been talking about having a debate with Ben Shapiro, but I don't think she wants to do it in the Daily Wire offices or in Ben Shapiro or an independent office. They seem to be going back and forth on whether they're going to have a debate. I think she should do it in the Daily Wire office. I would do it in the Daily Wire office. But I mean, I would also jump immediately at the opportunity to debate Ben Shapiro, period. So maybe I'm a little different. Dylan, just remember from her time talking to Congress.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In congressional hearings, the minority party gets to select its own witnesses. And of all the people that Republicans could have selected, they picked Candace Owens. I don't know Miss Owens.
Honestly, he should have ended it there. It should have been like, embarrassing. Okay, I'm done with my question time. I'm sorry. Okay. Continue.
I'm not going to characterize her. I'm going to let her own words do the talking. So I'm going to play for you the first 30 seconds of a statement she made about Adolf Hitler.
Oh.
I agree. I actually don't have any problems at all with the word nationalism. I think that it gets, the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. So when you think about, whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. You know, he was a National Socialist, but if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German.
All right, so my first question is to Ms. Hirschenoff. Ms. Owens said, quote, if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine.
I'm sorry, like, just make Germany great again. Like, she's like, she might as well just be selling the hats.
The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. So when people try to legitimize Adolf Hitler, does that feed into white nationalist ideology?
Damn, he didn't even ask if that's like praising Hitler or anything. He was just like, so yeah, she was like legitimizing Hitler. What do you think about that? So here's the thing. I don't know if she thought about her statement. I honestly don't know if this is just her kind of floating with like, Hitler's stuff was cool if domestic, like him going after, for example, the LGBT research that was going on in German institutions and burning all those books, the book burning all those woke books. That was cool. You know, having the strong conservative social standards, you know, those were cool. You know, him going after these, the liberals and, you know, that was cool. I don't know if she was thinking all of that. I think maybe she genuinely just had such little knowledge of Hitler, which is why right now she's like, oh my God, Dresden, I've never known this before. It's because she knew so little about Hitler, World War II, that she didn't know, like, you know, the Holocaust wasn't just something outside of Germany. You know, it was centralized in Germany. They went after minorities in Germany too. Did a lot of horrible things in Germany. It wasn't just like outside of Germany, it was also inside of Germany. I mean, the camps that would eventually evolve into concentration camps, what we modernly perceive as concentration camps, those were constructed very early on in Hitler's term. I say term as if it was like, you know, like, let's have an election 4 years, but during his time in power.
Yes, Mr. Liu, I know that Ms. Owens distanced herself from those comments later, but we expressed great concern over the original comments.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Owens, I'm sorry, we just started recording. Would you like time to respond to that?
Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that black people are stupid and will not...
I'm sorry. Okay, that laugh was like a little much. I need to pull it in, but what? Was that her defense? Ted Lieu hates black people? Oh, okay. Okay, well, I hadn't considered that. Never mind about what you said about Hitler. Ted actually just hates black people. I hadn't considered that. I was listening to that Hitler statement, and at no point did I think, I wonder if Ted, the reason he's not happy with her saying Hitler would have been fine if he just made Germany great again. Is this racist for him to bring this up? Like, come on. Is her plan here just straight up just Uno reverse? Okay, I'm interrupting her. She's making a brilliant point. Let's just listen.
I'm sorry, we just started recording. Would you like time to respond to that?
Yes, I think it's pretty apparent that Mr. Liu believes that black people are stupid and will not pursue the full clip in its entirety. He purposely presented an extracted clip.
The witness will suspend for a moment. It is not proper to refer disparagingly or to a member of the committee. The witness will not do that again. Witness may continue.
Damn, Nadler's strong today.
Sure, even though I was called despicable.
Witness may not refer to a member of the committee as stupid.
I didn't refer to him.
No, he didn't. Well, she did. She said that he thinks that black people are stupid, which, I mean, is much sillier than if she would have just called him stupid.
Stupid.
Like, why would it even be centered on black people? He said nothing about black people. He never said like, "Hey, black people, look at this clip I found." Oh, he just said, "Here's something Candace Owens said," and then she immediately, and I'm gonna say it, used her race to protect herself. She took out her deck, she went through every card, and she said, "Ooh, the race one," and she deployed it. Immediately, she went into defense mode because she said Hitler was kind of cool domestically. She was like, I'm black. That's going to be a crazy clip. But, I mean, that's what that feels. That's what 100% what this feels like, right? It feels like complete idpol. Like, he didn't even say anything about black people. She just brought this into the conversation of, oh, I guess you don't like black people. What? You think they're stupid? What is this? That had nothing to do with the conversation. Just be like, well, maybe he thinks that the viewers at home or the American people. Why black people? Okay, sorry.
That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. You didn't listen to what I said. May I continue?
Please.
As I said, he is assuming that black people will not go pursue the full 2-hour clip. And he purposefully he cut off, and you didn't hear the question that was asked of me. He's trying to present as if I was launching a defense of Hitler in Germany, when in fact, the question that was asked of me was pertaining to whether or not I believed that whether or not I believed in nationalism, and that nationalism was bad. And what I responded to was that I do not believe that we should be characterizing Hitler as a nationalist. He was a homicidal, psychopathic maniac that killed his own people. A nationalist would not kill their own people.
A nationalist would not kill their own people. Well, then, is there any person who's declared as like a nationalist leader that we could point to that they didn't kill their own? I don't even know if I mean, the vast majority of them have. So I guess she's saying that the vast majority of people have declared themselves nationalists. They're not really nationalists because they had to kill their own people. But you ask any of those people, and they said the people we killed were trying to destroy the nation. We did it out of love of the nation. We did an evil, but the evil was necessary. Like, I don't know why this would, like, a nationalist wouldn't kill their own people. This just feels like a no true Scotsman thing to me, at least. They can be positive nationalism in order to like throw off the chains of oppression. There could be like types of love of country, but to try to pretend that like Hitler wasn't a nationalist, number one, I find that silly. I think that was a pretty big definer of his ideology. And number two, even if what she's saying right here, her classification of the conversation is true, and let me just take it at face value and say that's true. She said that if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great again, it would be fine. But the problem was he went elsewhere. The problem with Hitler wasn't just that he went elsewhere. The problem with Hitler was also the persecution of people inside Germany and the oppressive militarism that he instituted in Germany, the destruction of the institutions and of the democracy. Like, these were all things that Hitler did that was also very bad. It wasn't just about him invading other countries.
That is exactly what I was referring to in the clip, and he purposely wanted to give you a cut-up similar to what they do to Donald Trump to create a different narrative. That was unbelievably dishonest, and he did not allow me to respond to it, which is worrisome and should tell you a lot about where people are today in terms of trying to drum up narratives.
He should have let her respond. I do agree with that.
By the way, I would like to also add that I work for Prager University, which is run by an Orthodox Jew. Not a single Democrat showed up to the embassy opening in Jerusalem. I sat on a plane for 18 hours to make sure that I was there.
That's true. Candace Owens is considered the Jews' favorite American. They came together and they said that, you know, don't listen, like, whatever. She has a Hitler pass. She can say whatever she wants about Hitler, and the Jews are cool with it, because she knows Jewish people, and she went to Israel.
Deeply offended by the insinuation of revealing that clip without the question that was asked of me.
Thanks, Mrs. Owens, and I yield the remainder of my time.
Oof. I think since then, maybe she did a little bit more reading, and then all she has to talk about World War II is the Dresden bombings. Very interesting. Very interesting. I'm fascinated. Absolutely fascinated.